This is how wrong these people are, that even if they were right, they would still be wrong. Because the personhood argument for abortion is a syllogism with a missing premise. It seems to go like this. Premise one, an unborn baby is not a person. He is merely a potential person. Conclusion, therefore we can kill him. Now wait a second. Two does not flow logically from one. You're missing something here. You skipped over a step. Just because someone isn't a person doesn't necessarily mean that you can kill them. That's a whole separate case you need to make that you haven't made. There's a whole other premise you have to establish. You haven't even tried to do it. So even if I conceded this point, even if I let you make the first massive logical leap and I said, okay, it's not a person, it's a potential person, you still have another even bigger leap to make. Because now you need to prove that it is okay to destroy this potential person. I don't see how you make that case, because if I agree it's a potential person, for the sake of argument, it would seem to me that this potential human ought to be treated like the most valuable non-person thing on the planet. It would seem to be the second best thing next to being a person. And I don't think it is necessarily okay to kill the second best thing. I mean, wouldn't the potential person still be more valuable than, say, a sea turtle egg? Sea turtle eggs are protected by the federal law. There's no question that sea turtles aren't people. Now, to be clear again, I don't even for a moment buy the idea that an unborn person is just a potential person. I reject it outright on scientific, logical, and moral grounds. I'm just trying to establish that the argument doesn't work even on its own premise. Consider it this way, and I've used this analogy before, and it's a little bit of a crude analogy, it doesn't work entirely, but I think it illustrates the point a little bit. What if you had a winning lottery ticket? What if you won $50 million in the lottery, and you had your lottery ticket, and you were skipping down to the lottery office, waving it in the air? Not a good idea. You're saying, look, everyone, I just won $50 million, check it out. Now, imagine that I run up, and I snatch that ticket from you, and I burn it right in front of you. Now, that ticket was not $50 million. It's just a ticket. It was just a receipt. That's all it was. It was just the potential of $50 million. It was moments away from being converted into $50 million, but at the moment that I destroyed it, it was just a piece of paper. But would you react as though you just lost a piece of paper? Or would you react as though you just lost $50 million? Would you accept my argument if I said, hey man, calm down? It was just potentially $50 million. Of course you wouldn't. See, whether the ticket is $50 million or merely the potentiality of $50 million is basically irrelevant. It is semantics. And certainly you would say that the potentiality of $50 million has a worth greater than zero. In fact, it probably has a worth of $50 million. As it happens, the child in this analogy is already, from the moment of conception, $50 million. More, he is a thing of infinite value, not just infinite potential value. But what I'm trying to say is I don't see the difference really between infinite potential value and infinite value. So if I agree with how they frame the argument that this child is just a potential child, I would still see it as an act of unspeakable wickedness to murder the potential child. And that's what abortion is in the end. This is the truth that cannot be escaped. It is the intentional destruction of innocent human life. And intentionally destroying innocent human life is always wrong, period, in every case, no matter what. If it is not always wrong to intentionally destroy innocent human life, then nothing is wrong. Then the very word wrong has no meaning. That's our case as pro-lifers. It is always wrong to intentionally kill innocent human life. That's our case. That's the whole argument. That's it. It's very simple. But there's a lot of power in its simplicity. You know, it's the other side that has to get very complicated, has to get into the weeds, the semantics, has to bring up the hard cases, has to bring up this and that and obfuscate. That's all they ever do. Because they cannot take this issue head on. They can't just talk about what this thing is.